Magpie lay at the intersection of mountain and plains, spaces abruptly changing from vertical to horizontal. Lola loved the juxtaposition, the headlong sweep of prairie to the east, the way it made her feel at once small and soaring, while behind her rose the bracing immensity of the Rocky Mountain front, the sheer limestone reefs, seemingly so close that she could put a hand to them to steady herself. Until Lola drove east out of Magpie, she hadn't realized how much she'd come to take that defining backdrop for granted. 60 miles out, her sky-gouging landmark disappeared from the rearview mirror, and the world became entirely too vast. The sky slowly lightened into roughly the same clotted milkshade as the snow, making it impossible to tell where land left off and clouds began. "Do you think if I stood on my head it would look much different?" she asked Bub. She was already grateful for the company. Not, she thought, that she'd ever give Charlie the satisfaction of knowing that. She dug a hand into Bub's fur and felt for the stump of his missing leg. It ended in a hard knot of scar tissue that Bub gnawed when he was bored. She reminded herself that the dog had almost died because of her, flinging himself at the man who had killed Mary Alice, and then had tried to kill Lola, too. So what if Bub's presence meant a few extra stops so that he could do his business? She scratched at his ears. He thumped his tail against the seat. The pickup's interior was toasty, and she'd long ago shed her parka and hat and mittens and glove liners. Still, the dog, the warm, living mass of him, provided a different kind of comfort, warding off the psychic chill imposed by her frozen surroundings. She kept one hand on Bub's ribcage, with its reassuring rise and fall. She scanned the landscape, picking out features: a dense shelter belt heralding a faraway ranch, the inevitable grain elevators marking a town, as a way of breaking it into manageable proportions. Handfuls of houses, the remnants of railroad towns, sprang from the prairie at regular intervals and receded behind her before she could take comfort in the knowledge that other human beings shared the boundless space around her. Angus cattle stood motionless in fields of wind-whipped snow, like black barges in icy bays. At least, she thought, the road itself was largely clear of snow, scrubbed as it was by the merciless wind. Fellow travelers were such a rarity that she took to counting passing vehicles as a way to combat boredom. When that proved insufficiently distracting, she ignored Bub's reproachful stare and warbled off-key tunes, starting with radio sing-alongs, and then, when the dial went to static, a cappella versions of every song she could remember, including patriotic anthems and Christmas carols. She'd have recited poems, but all she could remember were dirty limericks, and Under the Spreading Chestnut Tree, its line about the smith's large and sinewy hands, leading her back to the limericks. By the time she reached the North Dakota border, she'd refilled the thermos twice and stopped 4 times at gas stations, whose bathrooms made her long for a fine, healthy tree, if only such a thing had existed on the bald land, and the mercury hadn't stopped its daytime ascent at 0. She wondered what Judith had thought on her own long journey east, the mountains and trees vanishing behind her, exchanging the sometimes stifling warmth and caring of her own people for the disinterest of strangers. Even if Judith had gone willingly, it must have been daunting. Everything changed at the North Dakota line, starting with the road. The pickup had jounced over tarred seams that stitched the pavement together for more than 400 miles, when the ride smoothed, the tires rolling over new macadam, the unbroken coal-black surface startling against the snow. The road widened.